Hello. So it's November. We're in another lockdown, and I thought because of that, I would start a series of readings from my attic, poetry readings, prose readings, various things, just to keep in touch with people and try to keep in touch with reading and writing. Um, so, given that we're in a lockdown, I've been thinking quite a lot about the idea of solitude, and I'm lucky I'm locked down with my family, but not everybody is in that position, and there have been lots of people doing a lot of spending time on their own. Some of us are good at that, and some of us not so good. And a couple of poems that I've written, one quite a long time ago and one more recently, deal with different aspects of being on your own, being solitary, or being in extraordinary circumstances that ask for a certain kind of solitude. So the first one, and they're both quite long kind of narrative poems, but the first one is about lighthouse keepers. And quite a few years ago now, I became quite interested in lighthouses, the fact that they're on this kind of liminal space between land and sea. And they're so crucial to people's survival. And then you think about the life of a lighthouse keeper. There were usually two of them, and there was a point at which they decided it might be a good idea for there to be three, kind of backup lighthouse keeper as well. The poem that I'm going to read you was inspired by a real incident that happened. And it's actually inspired a number of films. Quite a recent film with Willem Dafoe and Robert Pattinson was inspired by this particular incident. So in 1900, a relief boat, the Hesperus, arrived at the Flannan Isles, very remote island, to discover that the lighthouse keepers, all three of them, had vanished and they were never found. There were all sorts of theories about what might have happened to the lighthouse keepers, and I found this fascinating at the time and still do, thinking about that very intense, solitary life that you live. How would they fill their days? How would they make sure they got along with one another? What kinds of things might come out of their unconscious? And then I was thinking about their wives and their families who would miss them, in the times that they did their long shifts in the lighthouse, and then they would come home to their families. So I wrote this poem thinking about various possible scenarios as to what might have happened to them, and it's called The Occasional Keeper's Wife. The light was black as breccia rock, the first sign that something was wrong. The skipper climbed up banks of shadow, the basalt eyes of rabbits scattering from the gate, his heart tocking over the wind, expecting a boot cap in the open doorway, a spill of red. Only an unlit fire, the light cold and polished like a mirror, empty crumpled bunks, a stopped clock, hairline crack in a teacup, the chair upturned. That chair will spook him always, as though its bare legs were human and could run like my Donald, who'd gone out last, leaving his oilskins on their peg. Or it happened this way. They loved each other, those three, a crowd maybe, took turns with chores, played pontoon. Flesh is flesh if it came to it. I'd understand the wanting, rumpled beds, sharing a heartache. Eileen Moore, isle of cooled lava, both glossy and deep, watched over by the sketchy faces of gannets. St. Flannan's chapel built snug like a hound's kennel, tallow white when the moon wants it, surrounded by the porches of the Warrens. Thomas and James, Donald and Thomas, James and Donald, until something drags over the moon and they disappear. And someone pushed, and someone pulled, and someone didn't let go. The tower's light remained a while, gripping the waves by their lapels. Or it happened this way. They were like siblings, Donny, James, Tom, one kind, one tough, one with a tongue. They ran a tight tower, spotless. It was an accident. Two went to that nook in the rock, where the ropes are kept like eels waiting to be uncoiled. Donny stayed put, scoping the sea in time with the light, drying the rim of a teacup. He saw the hole in the water and what it meant, dazed into a deeper silence, as if I myself had walked in and kissed him. The waves unreeled, then hulked right up to where the others knelt in their gully. He tried to outrun the sea's rogue thought, but it reached over all their heads and took them with it. Some days I can't see the difference between those two explanations. I watch the light. It picks out shades of storm petrels, black-legged kittiwakes, pods of pilot whales showing their strong backs. The puffins stand and turn their faces to me. I wait for them to take off their masks. Weird word masks at the end there. We're all in our masks. So, solitude, living in extraordinary circumstances, living day to day. Second poem was written much more recently, probably last year. And again, it's about a mystery that's never been solved. And this one's about Amelia Earhart, the American pilot, who went missing on a flight around the Pacific. It was always assumed that her plane crashed in the sea. But a few years ago, a researcher gathered some evidence to suggest that she may have crash landed on a remote island and managed to land on the reef of the island and may have survived a couple of years on the island. She had a navigator with her, and we don't know whether he survived or she survived, or whether this was the scenario that took place. One of the pieces of evidence for this particular scenario was that a young girl called Betty Clenk heard a frequency on her ham radio, picked up what she thinks may have been the distress signals, but at the time she was too young to understand what those signals meant. Various other people picked up some distress signals too. So this poem is kind of about voice and what you hear and how you interpret what you hear, and the idea of trying to get a message out to people, to tell them where you are and what's happened to you, but that message takes years and years to be interpreted and understood. It's also about solitude and extraordinary circumstances. What would you do if you crash landed on an empty, uninhabited island with a navigator who was injured? How would you survive? How would you live out your days? The poem is a bit more experimental than the last one. It takes some of the transcripts of the ham radio messages, which are necessarily kind of fragmented and difficult to interpret. And it also lifts a couple of phrases from Earhart's journals, which are really rather beautiful. Journals about a very brave and intrepid woman adventuring out there in her plane and refusing to be told that that's not something that a woman does. A really inspiring figure. So I kind of imagined, along with this researcher, an alternative history to the one where she loses her life airplane going into the sea. I imagined her surviving a little bit longer on this island and being very resourceful as well. Amelia Earhart on the radio. New York City, New York City. Norwich City, Norwich City. New York, New York, Norwich City. Barnacled, split like a whale's ribs, tin can hot, waters high. Help me. Here, put your ear to it. Put your heart into it. This is Amelia. Putnam, punctum, the heart of it. SOS. Oh, SOS. Stop. Speak. Uncle. Oh, oh. Help, help us quick. I can feel it. My ankle, I can feel it. Betty Clenk, age 15, listening for her lyrics, doodling in her book, hears this and listens on. Come here just a moment. Imagine the tenderness. He's trying to get out, so hot in there, like a tin can. 58338, send us help. Amelia, take it, hear it. I need air. I need to be in the air, back where... Amelia, things are... Oh, let me out of here. Amelia, take it away, up and away. New York, New York, New York. No, Norwich City. Marie, Marie, Mary. Oh, if only they could hear me. Marie, it's going. Since 4:30, 5:10, airport. Oh, where are you? Let me out. Where are you going? We can't bail out. See? The water is rising, the plane is filling up, the reef is disappearing. Angel shark, bonnet head, seahorse, surgeon fish, sea urchins. Yes, yes, overlapping, lapping. Oh, oh, ouch, overlapping. Are you scared? What? Why? Hello, bud. It's Amelia Earhart here. Just here, wherever that is, or was, or will be. South 391605E. Hurry. Fuzzy, are you there? Hear from me. Hear from me. Heard by Mrs. Ernest Crabb, Toronto. Heard by Dana Randolph, Rock Springs. Heard by Thelma Lovelace, New Brunswick. Heard by Betty, scribbling in her room in Florida, twanging the web of the radio waves. Heard at all distances. Heard here, in the air. Are you, Marie? Hey, Marie. My head bleeds. Hey, watch that battery, my battery. What did you tell me? What did I tell you? SOS. Will you help me? Will you please? All right. What are you doing? 3QRD36. Amelia here. Here. Heart. Air. Quick, let me out. 3630. Knee deep over the knee. Cold water or lukewarm water. Angel shark. Bonnet head. Seahorse. Surgeon fish. Sea urchins. We are taking on water. The fears are paper tigers. I have flown through the night with a broken altimeter, one engine on fire, fuel dripping down my neck, still with a grin and a flick of my fringe. If I can do that, then... The nights are black, and the radio submerged and silent, Fred delirious with a deep head wound. The days rise as the waters draw away, white hot, the metal untouchable, silver as the basking sharks, the waves get up. Another midnight, the moon set, and I was alone with the stars. I have often said the lure of flying is the lure of beauty. I can't make it. Stop. 38-3. Huh? Huh? Are you there? Bottlenose dolphins, coconut crabs. 281 North Howland. Call KHAQQ. Beyond north. Won't hold with us much longer. Above water. Shut off. He gets out. Out where? Onto the bone-like reef. Darn, the plane is slipping, groaning on the reef, dipping from the clouds like the shadows of the reef like the shadows of the clouds. George, get the suitcase in my closet. What you won't find in it: one walking shoe, one empty bottle, possibly used to boil water, one sextant box, one bottle of ointment to remove freckles. Why? Each freckle a star, and the stars to navigate by. I was alone with the stars, I have often said. First flight with a hawk, frank hawks, avians everywhere. Bright yellow, the hot sun, so hot. Yellow is the first plane, a Kinner Airster, the canary, all of us named for the air. See them now, the 99s, each woman in the air, each woman a cloud creating dark shadows like islands. Mrs. Crabbe, Thelma Lovelace and Betty Clenk, number 100 listening in, grounded, holding her breath. No more voices on this frequency. Ashy storm petrels making their guano, rats teeming on the island. The reef has the give of a skull bone, the island named by Joshua Coffin and by C.A. Williams and Co. Messieurs, all of them. Fred Noonan, scrambling on the reef, calling for his wife. The wrecked Norwich City hulks, marooned, rusted. Not New York City. New York, New York. I did it my way. In those many days which have intervened, the whole width of the world has passed behind us, except this broad ocean, except. Sip, sip rain from a clamshell. The plane slips, hot silver, mirror to the sky. It sinks into the clouds. Gift to myself for my 39th. There goes the Electra I posed with, my arms outstretched. Chemis Island, Motuunga, May Letitia's, Gardner, all names unfamiliar. Coconut crabs, huge with a surgeon's fingers, unpicking the bones, meticulous as time. Oh, Pidge, it's just like flying. I'll see you in the attic, maybe again soon.